Alrighty, let's try a minor mic test, you know, the classic minor mic test. Not a major mic, just a minor mic. We just gotta make sure everything is good to go. We're trying this new thing out just to kind of make it more a bit enjoyable, I guess we'll call it. Not that I wasn't enjoying it before, but it just got kind of like, you know, I have a username and they expect XYZ. Now I have a completely different username, so I don't know. Questions all over the place, and nice to see you, Subsonic. Glad you were brave enough to type out a message, because that seems to be a thing that people aren't able to do now. Let's type out messages. What am I doing? Closing Task Manager, because who needs to manage your tasks? We have a very weird surface feature, we'll call it. I'm not entirely sure what it's doing. I mean, I know what it's doing, but why art thou doing it is the question that I've been asking myself. So you can see AVG is doing something quite rather tasty, and the issue here is we should be viewing a map like that. There should be stuff here, and there isn't, and it's not limited to downloaded maps only. So we're going to have to say goodbye to this and just figure out what else we can use, because that, for a free app, it's doing about as good as you would expect a free app to be doing. So, I mean, I can't complain. It's not like I actually dropped $90 a month or a year or whatever it is for it. So, people know me as a brave man. Well, there you go. It's good to be known as that. It's better to be that than the guy who's like, I have a great idea, now you guys do it, and I'll run away when things go south. Not that I recently experienced that with someone, but, whoops. My controls are still under my desk. I need to fix these things. Oh, connecting to... How come it says it can't connect to Sky Vector? Oh no, the world's gone against us. There we go. It's fine. I saved it. I've saved it. Alright, so I've saved the world. Not really. Let's take a look at the surface. Disregard what AVG is doing. They're doing something to pretend to protect me. I need to get rid of their useless application. So this is the plan for today. You can see it's VFR everywhere except for the area between where we're going to be flying. So therefore, logically, like a good helicopter pilot, we'll assume we can get under it. We're going to be flying from Palm Springs all the way over to Riverside. I'm really quite shocked that Flight Plan Go is dropping the ball. Okay, Victor Low works. Sectional. Now works. It's like the instant you type in Sky Vector, it realizes, oh, I need to be working. Route, let's go ahead and clear this, because we aren't going to be flying a precision RNAV departure in an R22, as entertaining as that may be. Alright, so we're going to overlay our helicopter charts. Sarcasm alert. Oh, okay, fine. The one thing I am missing is a pen. We'll go ahead and do it in this app now that it actually works. KPSP, it's like you've seen me type this before, to KRAL. Alright, very easy, very simple. So we have two options. Thank you, music. Music's getting us all hyped for nothing. We have two options here for how we can get over there. We can go through the Banning Pass. That option's going to not change. The kind of spicy meatball bit comes in a little second. Let me go ahead and move this guy up to here, because we'll be departing to the north and joining a freeway. I'll explain why we do that once we get into the sim. It'll make a lot of sense when you also, well, I mean, if you look at the sectional, you can see these things that look an awful lot like windmills. Ironically, they are windmills, and ironically, there is a whole ton of them near the airport. So if you depart straight out in a helicopter, you're normally operating low-level stuff. They're telling you it's up to 1,980 feet. Conveniently, we know there won't be any windmills in the middle of the freeway, so if we go down the middle of the freeway, we will be okay. I don't have any scenery that does windmills, just because I like my frames a bit more. I mean, I probably could sacrifice a couple frames on this machine, but I haven't tried it. So, as we get to this area in the map, we start to realize that we have two options. We can follow the Pomona Freeway, which will give us an interesting flight because I have to get an airspace transition. The Pomona Freeway, or we can follow the Timoteo Canyon Road, or San Timoteo Canyon Road up, and then watch out for the San Bernardino International Airspace. I don't know why they call it a international airspace. We could maybe do a quick hover landing at Loma Madeira near Loma Linda Hospital, and then come down that freeway and go into Riverside. So those are our two options. We either do a transition or we do another transition up here in a Delta. We either transition a Charlie or a Delta. I won't pick the third option, which will be neither. I'll give you guys kind of an option to pick one or the other. Let me make sure that X-Plane hasn't crashed, and it hasn't. It's a miracle when you get X-Plane stable. I was having some issues with... What was I having issues with? A lot of things. I was having an issue with JSnap's Real Terra Haze update that he's been working on. I had a couple bugs with it, where, for example, it wouldn't run. That was the whole bug. It wouldn't run. It would just kind of crash. Fly with Lua, and even the regular Fly with Lua did when they called the absolute value function, ABS in parentheses. So what I did was I just deleted Fly with Lua, reinstalled it, and plopped in his plugin, and it worked. I haven't tried it with Real Terra Haze yet, but I think the settings he runs were close enough to what I run that it won't cause any issues. Alright, so those are the two options there. I'll debrief it again. I don't know what AVG is doing. Applying security settings. Okay, well, we'll close that in Task Manager. Let's go ahead and take a look at the simulator. You can see that it's very funny now that since Mr. X and GPB make scenery, someone said Mr. X needs to come in and update his Palm Springs scenery, and I was sitting there going, wasn't this GPB's scenery? Like, it's GPB's scenery using his library. And this is still that original 1.2 update that he did. I haven't updated it since then. I'll probably have to spend time tomorrow maybe and just download all of the updates that he released. But yeah, it's a beautiful airport. You can see I have orthophoto on top of it. So we aren't going to get any buildings. I do have something that I need to test to see how the buildings work, that World 2 XP enhanced McJargon. But I just haven't had the time to. And really, in all honesty, my flying, I don't look at the size of the building and go, oh, that's a 2-story building, that's a 3-story building. My main focus are these things right here, which is the roads. I could care less if there's one big mansion here and 3 little condos. I care more about the road turns like this and has a weird pocket in there, right? That's what I care about. I don't care about the buildings. Like, ooh, artsy fartsy building. Cool, real life, interesting, but the focus of the flight is not on the architecture. The focus of the flight is on the navigation. Although I will say that tower, scrumptious. Oh, cinematic camera fail. But yeah, so there you go. So that's a little bit about how I fly. So AVG's still busy doing absolutely nothing useful. So let's go ahead and take that one out here in Task Manager. Hopefully you can't see it. I mean, I'm sure you can, but it's so dang tiny that access denied. Well, that's not good. Holy moly. I just used 61% of my RAM to do nothing useful at all. There we go. Got rid of it. Alright, so that's the game plan out of here. I'll give you guys the option, as I said, and I'll repeat it again until someone actually picks something. We can either do this route across March's airspace, or we can go up through San Bernardino's airspace. We're just going to do one flight today because I got things that I have to take care of after I get food. Speed-wise, can I add speed in here? Well, we can get a total distance. Total distance, 4 nautical miles plus 8 is 18 plus 33. 20 plus 33 is 53 minus 2 is 51. So we're doing 51 nautical miles in a plane that does about 90 to 100 knots. So it'll take us about 30 minutes to do the flight once we get her chuchin, as EVA says. Alright, so if you guys don't have any questions, I'll get you guys back to the surface. Back to the surface. Whew. And remember that dilemma. You can pick. We either do a Charlie transition or a Delta transition. Those are our two options for the flight here. There will be an awkward silence, excuse me, as I am maneuvering all of my controls onto my desk. I don't believe in setup tours, but I think there's some minor interest as to why recently recently there's been a change in how long it takes me to get like my stuff set up, and it's just simply because I'm not prepared. But also we can blame the setup has changed slightly where I put my controls now that there are 3 of them. Well, 2 of them, because the pedals always stay under the desk. Regardless. Alright, that's all set up. Good to go. Let's go ahead and get into the airplane here. Beautiful R22. We're a little close. I don't like how... Jeez, I hope this cough doesn't stay for this whole thing. How close we are, so let's go ahead and attach the wheelies, and let's cycle through. There we go. Our views here. What view is this? 2? No. 4. Alright, so logically, this will now become 4. You'll see why in a minute. Control 4, and back we go. Alright, so this, everyone talked about, you know, Airfoil Labs being the first one to have this, but I bought this plane back in 2013, and it had this walkabout function. So literally all that you're doing is you're just towing the plane aft, and you can push it forward. You can see it's easier to pull it forward, to push it forward, than it is to pull it backwards, because you're literally walking backwards. So the speed at which you can do that drastically changes. I'm going to need to grab a beverage at this rate. Alright, so there's that. All. Let's try that again. So you can see going backwards it's a bit slower. I swear I've streamed before, not under this username clearly. You can go forward and you can go backward. I'm okay, I promise. I just had to get a beverage because I'm sitting here going, holy crap. Holy crap. Yeah, I know, you guys are just seeing the chart. How long have you been streaming under this name? This is the first one. So welcome to the first one. I changed it 2 days ago. So here's what I was talking about, right? You're pulling the thing backwards, or you're pushing it forward. You can get more gumption on the push forward. The way you steer it is with differential brakes, or actually, sorry, with your rudder input. So there you go. You can make it do wheelies. It's just off your rudder input. So super handy. We'll go ahead and push this back around. It's really handy when you start up and you're kind of in a wrong situation, and you need to adjust yourself so that way you can actually fly the plane. Sorry about that. I had to grab a beverage because at the rate talking was going, it was a wee bit difficult. So that's that. You guys will maybe see this. Yeah, you will. We got this JSnap's settings in use. So JSnap, the way that I fix this, remember I told you I was getting an absolute value error, is I actually just reinstalled Fly with Lua. I just said screw it, deleted Fly with Lua, installed the new one, and we're good to go. So that is that. Alright, now you guys can see the airplane. Everything is good. So 8 is for the fuses, logically. Alright, so this is the R22. It's a little old plane. You can see we're looking at about 30 inches of manifold pressure outside. So this is before we get the engine started. So just a good reference, like if you're sitting there and the altimeter says 250 and your thing's sitting up here, you know you're kind of wrong. If it says it's over 3 and it's not over 3 on your inches of mercury, then something is slightly amiss, at least in the R22. One thing that we need before we fly on PilotEdge is to actually connect to PilotEdge. One thing we need before we can fly VFR on well, you don't need to. The reason why I do
Connected to
this
PilotEdge.
is so that way the controller knows where I'm going. You don't even need to file a flight plan doing VFR, but I just like to if I'm doing helicopter stuff, um, because we're going to be flying about the area, and it'll keep track of my time. I've noticed I've done some flights in the 407, and the total time for the users of the 407 isn't there unless you file, so that's why I file. No, you don't need to, but I just do it for the enjoyment of pressing the file VFR button. And it keeps the VATSIM people happy. Yeah, so Twitch is letting me change my name. Twitch lets you change your name and it keeps all your followers, which is the main thing, right? So I wanted to change my name to this. Story time, so we'll go to a cinematic view as my sim freezes. We'll go to a cinematic view here. So I wanted to change this name a long time ago. I wanted to change to this back when I had, I think it was 100 followers, right? And I just never did it. Because I was like, well, I already sunk this much time into the username. And so I had like 4 or 5 emails with Twitch. And like, once you get partnered, you can change your username. And to be honest with you, getting partnered is not one of my goals in Twitch. I know a lot of people who stream, that's their aspiration and that's their goal. For me, it's just to build a community, and I don't care if my community goes and watches Cat Strader, goes and watches Aerosim, goes and watches John Fly or any other partnered or non-partnered stream. I don't care. I just wanted to be able to share my aviation with people, and I was like, well, the username's not that big of a deal. I already have a following, so I'll just keep it with what it is. And then jokes came out about I fly as good as the controllers that my company makes, which was enjoyable. It was a good joke. It was an honestly quite amusing joke, and I just kind of kept it. And then I found out I could change it a couple days ago, and I was like, well, let's see what happens. And it happened. So there you go. Long story short, long story long. That's what happened. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the checklist here. We'll go ahead and head down here, click on the handbook, and we get a handy dandy shekel list. It is, of course, a multi-page manual. None of them have page numbers, but you can see we have a couple bits here. And looks like I was drinking French roast coffee by the looks of that stain. It was good French roast. Wasn't Starbucks either. Alright, so let's go ahead and let's go here. So seatbelts, yep, that's good. Collective frictions are off and collective full down and frictions on. So as of right meow, that's doing nothing. So that should be the twist grip, that should be the collective. It is collectives full down. We'll go ahead and engage those. We'll go ahead and move this out. We'll make sure that it is free and relatively correct. Can we see a blade? Did I just re-engage that? I did. Oh, now we're locked. Unlock. Alright, so this way. Yeah, so the blades are moving. You can also see the shadow, which is good news for us. We'll go ahead and make sure those pedals are free and correct. We can remove controls for our co-pilot so they can just be a passenger or a save our life person. In this facet, they will be our save our life person. For those of you guys wondering weights, we'll keep the doors on. Those are our weights. Crew is 328 poundages. That's their weight. And then my weight is that. Go ahead and exit that. I think those are the stock settings. Stability controls, everyone cares what those are. They're at 10%. 50% it feels like you're flying something super stable. 10% you're balancing an elephant on a P, on a titanium P or something. It's kind of ridiculous. Fuel shutoff is on, which means your fuel is not shut off, I guess. The way to tell is it flowing to the engine? Ironically, the engine's behind you, but think about it that way, flowing to the engine, not flowing to the engine. So that is on and good to go. Governator is turned on. Mixture is... oh, circuit breakers. Let's go ahead and check the circuit breakers. Easiest way to check the circuit breakers isn't through this view. This is actually the easiest way to check them. Because if one's pulled, it'll stick out like that. And so that's actually a good measure of whether or not all the circuit breakers are in. If we were to go outside and do a little walkabout, there are some interesting features inside the plane that not many people would use unless you're an R22 pilot or would be aware of. If we come back here and open this up and go ahead and click on a chip test, so if you look there, this panel, this click panel here, as we click on those with the battery on, you'll see the respective lights will light up for whatever system you're checking. So that's super handy if you wanted to go through those checklists. And if you lock the door, this is something that's pretty amazing.
C8 contact circuit.
Oops. That's something that's pretty amazing about this plane. If you lock the door and then you go ahead and you... Can we close it? Yeah, alright, let's try this again. He has like this interesting kinetic door, which is the first time I've seen it, and I kind of like it. Oh, guess we can't do that. Okay, we'll close the door, and then we'll lock it. We'll add some ventilation in here, because the R22 is a giant greenhouse. And back to the checklist. Who would have thought? Now that they're built in, we're kind of forced to use them. Mixture goes to full of the riches. Now, interestingly enough, in an R22 engine, and especially, I think even the 300, you don't lean the mixture. It's pretty much full rich all the time. If you think about it, most helicopters, especially these type, fly at sea level. I don't know if they have any automatic mixture. Alright, landing light is turned off. That's in the down position. That's down there on the cyclic, on yield cyclic. Frictions are supposed to be set. The reason why frictions are set is I think if we bump the controls, we don't want to tip it over, because helicopter tipping is not an activity we want to partake in. Alright, so those controls are locked. Landing light altimeter is not set, but we can go ahead and find that out before we even turn on the battery. We know that the field elevation is, I think it's it can't be 460 feet. Although, I mean, it would make sense. I'll go ahead and take a look at the airport diagram. That's the surface chart here. 476. Go ahead and scroll around. It's about 476. So that's what we're looking for on our altimeter, is about 476. So we'll go ahead and take a guesstimate that it's probably about 9 or 6. We'll go ahead and listen to the altimeter and make sure that we are correct here. Jackal, the immersion. I know, dude. It's pretty immersive. No, dude, you totally can. So, JSnap, what you do is you go into your settings, and inside your settings, there's a tab called Edit. And, well, in your settings, it'll give you your username, the place where you can change the capitalization. And where it has your username grayed out, if you type in Edit, you can type in a username, see if it's available, and take it. And then your old username becomes free in 60 days. So, that's the whole story about that. Alright, so rotor brake is disengaged. That's this handy pull handle there. So disengaged is it fully up. Landing light switch is off. Altimeter is set. Map light is off. That's here. If you're using maps and flying a helicopter, you're doing it right. And twist twice for priming. It's really hard to see because it's a black texture against a black surface, but we'll go ahead and twist once and twist twice. Not a lot of throw in that. This here, this is our carb heat. It's handy to know where that click spot is, especially because we have this giant, oh right, we can't do that. We have this giant lawnmower on the back with this induction housing or whatever. And what'll happen here is you'll build carb ice like you won't believe if you aren't careful. So it's handy to know where that switch is when you're flying it. Throttle is now closed. Area around us is clear. Master battery switch is on. Strobe lights is on. You can hear the PilotEdge controller.
2268, climb maintain 1 to 5,000, contact Los Angeles Center 125.27.
But you can hear, oh, what's going on? Why can't we hear that sound anymore? There you go. So you can hear that sound, that wing, wing, wing. I have to, I forgot what it is, but it does something, obviously. Strobe light is on, ignition goes to start, and then both. Alright, so we can play with the throttle. Starter light is out, clutch switch engaged. You're going to just make sure oil pressure is alive. So that's fine. Note the clock there. We're looking for it within 5 seconds. 3, 4, and that's 5.
Only thing that I saw was just a little bit of a shoot on the localizer, but to your...
So that's going to start up. Note the time less than 5 seconds. Alternator switch now can come on. 25 psi minimum. We're sitting over here looking at 55, so that is bueno. Headset and volume is all set. Hopefully, let me know if there's a problem. 1200. We'll go ahead and move it into altitude mode, aptitude mode. We'll go ahead and look up at the sky. Confuse ourselves.
No problem, and I'm
Cut off.
American 22.6, Los Angeles Center, climb
100 seconds, so that is all good to go. Warm up RPM 7075, so let's go ahead and plop it on. I remember what they said, the gov needs to be off. We'll get a governor light for that. So within about a minute and a half, we should start to see a reduction. We're sitting here looking down at our carb temp. You can tell that our carb temp is getting a bit cool, so let's just go ahead and sit here with it fully pulled. That'll warm up the carb. At this point, we aren't going to be doing any flying immediately. We need to let it warm up for a little bit. All engine instruments, let's do a quick pad check. We have enough fuel for the mission, a little bit in the auxiliary. We have about 8.5, 9.5 gallons on board, which will get us far enough, hopefully.
65 crossing Meissen at maintain flight level 240.
No, it's not a one-time change. You can change it every 60 days. So every 60 days you could just confuse people and change your name, but I think really once you do it once, you should be good. So looking at the airport diagram, we have clearance delivery. We don't need that. What we need is the ATIS. Now the R22 is a really handy frequency changer built into it. Also, if you have any presets, this does allow for presets. So you can set up a preset. If you remember how the A2A plane works, you can set up a preset here. So let's say preset 3 will be 1825, assuming we know how to tune radios. Then, when you set that by pressing the channel button, long press of channel select will make it blink, and short press will let you toggle through. So what you can do is, let's say you're flying, you go to preset 3, question mark, doesn't work. Do I not know how it works? Okay, maybe not. Long press. Now it doesn't work. See, that's the hard part, is I don't remember how to set this. Like, I've set it before, but you can set presets. Clearly I've set it before. You can see preset 1 here. Preset 2 is 21.7, which is the Riverside ground frequency, but I don't remember why I did that. Can I get rid of you? Go away. Alright, well hopefully that'll go away here in a second, then we can actually grab the ATIS. Nav lights, we don't need alternators, good. Everything else checks up. Doors are all closed and latched. 75% power. Let's go ahead and get us up there. We'll go ahead and put in our carb. Put in our carbs, feed some calories. We'll go ahead and do a mag check now. It's weird that you do the mag check with the rotor engaged. Back to where it needs to be. Yeah, so as you can see, if you wait long enough, that preset channel disappears, but it's super handy if you can get it to be set up correctly. Alright, 75%. Governor comes, what is this saying? Governor on, increase guard off. Okay. Governor, guard off. Guard comes off. We should get a power warning because we're pulling collective with low rotor RPM. And a light. That's all fantastic. Go ahead and increase this a bit more. You'll hear it as it overspeeds the rotors. So that's, everything's perfect there. Bueno. Everything is good. Alright, so that's all engaged. Let's go ahead and grab the ATIS here on 1827. 1825, sorry about that. 29 or 2, really? Oh, I guess because I've run my follows terrain contours turned on. Visibility sky, fantastic. Visibility 10, sky conditions 3,500 of the scattered. We'll go ahead and get over to Palm Springs Tower, which is 19.7. We'll see if she has us contact clearance to get our clearance out of here. In theory, we shouldn't, because it's a Tursa and we're doing VFR ops. We're just departing VFR Negatron flight following.
Los Angeles Center, Clement, maintain flight level 350.
Pad area around us is clear. We're going to go ahead and try and get it light on the skids and just make sure that everything's good. Wonderful afternoon.
Parking Alpha this frequency, same to you, actually, we'll see you shortly. Don't have to go.
Oh, that's nice. Now, how do we unlock this? How do we unlock the cyclic? That's kind of a staple. There we go. Sometimes it can be a bit buggy. That's fully unlocked. But hopefully when he updates to 11, he'll fix some of those issues. Alright, so now slow on the power. What are we actually limited to? We got 13 for the OAT, and we're sitting at about half a thou. Let's go ahead and take a look here. Half a thou, 13 degrees on the positive end. We're limited to about 22.5, we'll say, inches of manifold. And we're limited to 102 knots for do not exceed speed. Alright. Let me know if you need help reading that. So we're going to go up to 20.
San Luis Tower.
We're getting
Your
light.
transmission was cut off, but I just said you were holding short road 29 left.
There's 21. Okay.
Wind 3008, road 29 clear for the option. Correction, clear for takeoff.
There's the wind factor. Alright, let's move it up to the helipad.
Runway 29, left those report midfield, 74 hotel.
His stuff's not doing too well. Alright. Well, we've scraped our way to the helipad, so we'll need to inspect the skids on landing or before takeoff, one of the two. 19.7, that's engaged. You can channel switch here, so if we do a little bit of pre-tuning, we're going to go ahead and cut through the March airspace. So what that'll look like is on departure, we're going to be departing to the north. The reason for that, sorry for the quick scene change, is there are these things called windmills right there. And they're at about 1,000 feet, 1,900 feet. So we don't want to fly that, so we're going to depart to the north, follow this road, join the freeway, head over that way. Easy peasy, lemons have been squeezied. Alright, so we're headed up over to the freeway, following the freeway all the way over. And then when the freeway separates, we're going to be taking the, banning the Riverside Freeway, sorry, Pomona Freeway across March ARB's airspace. Alright, we should be good to go. Alright, everyone's got it? We know the plan? Let's get out of here. Let's see, we got Palm Springs Towers who we're talking to. Oh, next, I was talking about pre-tuning. We're going to have to go 27. I'll have to bind something to my controls so I can do this. Because in real life, it'd be a tactile. You latch your fingers onto it and you just hold on for dear life. But in the sim, your head's going all over the place. Palm Springs Tower, November 827, Whiskey Uniform Type Helicopter R22 at the helipad. We're looking for VFR to the north, negative flight following. I didn't tell you information.
Airline 1565 Los Angeles Center, Las Vegas, altimeter 2980. Cross Clara and maintain 13,000.
Just out of habit, we can reduce the amount of power we're pulling here.
November 1014, request destination for I-4.
827 Whiskey Uniform, Palm Springs Tower. You said VFR negative flight following to Riverside.
VFR negative flight following up to the north, eventually over to Riverside Municipal for 827 Whiskey Uniform.
There's some Whiskey Uniforms and negative radar services as well.
Correct, negative radar for 827 Whiskey Uniform.
There's some Whiskey Uniform, and I'm assuming you're looking for a straight out departure. Or
That would also be preferred for 827 Whiskey Uniform.
Helicopter 827 Whiskey Uniform. Present position, departure approved. Area's non-move area. Use caution. Takeoff is at your own risk. And give you the winds currently 2106.
Alright, clear for takeoff. We'll use caution and thanks for the winds and departing out to the north just for SA for 827 Whiskey.
Who's calling for the I-4?
Cessna 727.
For the I-4.
Adding power.
November 1014.
Oh, that was strange. We're limited to 22, so let's go ahead and lift. There we go. And
Yes.
off to the north.
Destination will be Santa Monica Airport, Kilo, Sierra, Mike, Oscar.
Do a quick logic check. No bright lights coming towards us. No flashy lights either. Now that we're through translation, we can go ahead and add some more power in here to keep us up to that 22.3 we're hard limited to because of the weather conditions.
November 222 Alpha Mike, tip 6 miles east, full stop landing.
It's like a double echo.
Request cat.
Alright, see there's translational. You can definitely see it there because now we have a power reduction, which means you can pull even more power.
Let's
go ahead and follow this road to the north. This is kind of the issue of running zoom level 18, or sorry, zoom level 17 stuff is at helicopter altitudes. It looks kind of poopy. Miss Co-Pilot, how you doing? Hi. I don't know why they blued out half of this road, but it was a healthy sidewalk coloring experiment, I guess. We're hard limited to 102 of the indicated airspeed. Let me move my phone so I can actually look at the chat. That's why flying the R22 is sporty. If you get distracted, things get a little out of hand. I say hello because you're in a heli. Haha, hilarious. I'll give you that. I will give you that. It's hilarious. I like how you said it, and then I actually read it in chat, but it was a good one. You can see we're getting buffeted by a little bit of wind
222
here.
Alpha Mike, traffic is in sight.
For 222 Alpha Mike, thank you. You'll be number 2 behind
you.
that traffic. Runway 29er, clear to land.
If you pick the wrong road here, very bad things will happen. You'll just have to go up here, the road will like terminate, and you'll have to join the freeway. We'll be smart and pick the right road here, because it's kind of an important feature set to be following. Now, I know that there's clouds at 3,000 feet AGL at Riverside. Good news is we aren't going to be at 3,800 feet or whatever. Oh, look, our shadow. Down there's Bermuda Dunes.
Delta X-ray, 9 miles east, full stop landing with Echo.
Start a lazy left turn.
125 Delta X and Lewis Tower, make straight in.
You can see our carb is getting ridiculously cold, so let's go ahead and add some carburetor heat. See that our power will reduce because our engine efficiency will reduce. Shoot, there we go. Keeping it out of the yellow. Yellow will kill a fellow, especially in a gauge like this, especially in a carb gauge. Now this isn't a carb gauge you find on your cell phone as you enter in, you know, that burrito that you ate. This is a carburetor temperature gauge, which is, I think it's a sensor measuring the inlet. No, it's the, would it be the inlet for the R22? I want to say it, but it can't be inlet. Maybe it's inlet. We're going to go with inlet temperature for the carburetor. That was a good one. That was a good one. Let's go, pilot, indeed. And how are you doing? Welcome on board. Welcome to the new Flight Syntax, slightly different Flight Syntax stream, because now he's called Flight Logic, which is a username he explained at the beginning of the stream.
Going downwind.
I'm going upwind.
There's 74 hotel, make stop and go.
We'll go ahead and add a little bit more power.
Stop and go.
We've almost completely pitted our collective here. But you can see we aren't at our 22 limited. We're still hovering at about 21. Oh, now our VSI is going to make us feel like we're falling out of the sky.
Downwind ground, Barony Bravo Lima, ready to taxi from the south, east parking Echo.
So we're hard limited to 102, which conveniently is where that red McDoodle is on our gauge, so we'll not exceed the red McDoodle. Alright, so right here there are no wind of the mills. You'll be able to see that they all kind of start on this side of the road. You can see their shadows. In real life, obviously, they'd have some vertical component. The vertical component for that airspace area, or for that area, they recommend you be at above 1,900 feet, so in essence 2,000 feet.
Caribbean Airlines 1565, contact Las Vegas approach 125.9 CM.
We don't really need to fly that high. There's a windmill. We really don't need to fly that high, but
Downwind ground,
if we were to fly over them, you can see there's some there.
Lewis Tower, last controller instructed you to brake midfield to join the downwind. That means you need to start your base turn. So I'm sorry, crosswind turn to join the downwind at midfield.
So we're going to watch out for those guys, and we're just going to get ourselves centered over the road. Right now it makes more sense why I said we need to be centered over the road, because we don't need to be flying at 1,900 feet. That just makes the ortho scenery look better, but it's not at all realistic, because in real life your ortho scenery should not be pixelated, or else you probably shouldn't be flying.
November 222 Alpha Mike, copy. At midfield, requesting full stop.
Confused, I hear voices in the back, but they aren't quite constructed voices.
Obviously you didn't copy because you did not read back my instruction. I need you to extend your downwind leg. I'll call your base turn.
It's getting a little upset, Mr. Salty.
Cessna 125 X-ray, 3 miles out, final.
It did. It was a good treat.
November 222, I'm going to have to attend other aircraft. Please read back the instructions, sir.
November 222 Alpha Mike, extending leg.
For 125 Delta runway 29er, clear to land.
Yeah, there's a tactful way to do that.
Clear to land, way 29, Cessna 125 Delta X-ray.
We're 727 hotel.
What are we doing? Yeah, we're 22 point something, so we'll just keep it
aircraft
at
calling
22.
Vegas, just stand by. We're 72740, did you exit the runway?
You know, when they ask you a question like that, most likely they see it on their radar scope, and that's when things get a bit confusing.
Okay, I got 3 aircraft patterned in San Luis. I need you guys to be answering me. 7274 Hotel, did you exit the runway?
He's gonna have a stressful day.
Okay, the instruction was stop and go. Do you still want to remain in the pattern?
Watch out for windmills on the ridge. Windmill ridge over here.
Negative, sorry, we're gonna have to head back to parking. We've had a mechanical issue here.
Unlike
Roger, taxi to parking.
Unlike your standard issue gears, when these rotors and those mash up, you aren't going to get turny-turny. You're going to get a breaky-breaky, so we're not going to mesh our gears. Also, our gears are spinning a bit faster than their gears ever will.
November 22 after 9, turning base to runway 29 final.
Cleared to land, number, traffic, short final.
Oh, we're almost up to 2,000 feet. That means we can fly over the windmills with complete disregard.
November 22 lane.
Grab a sip of beverage.
Urban Air 1565, Las Vegas approach, descend, correction. Expect visual approach runway 25.
So we should see, these should be train tracks, and they'll meet up here with the freeway in a little bit. These roads are all maintenance roads, up and around the windmills. I think this one,
Negative, I did not
where this one
descend,
goes.
expect visual approach 251.
We'll have to go ahead and see. But it sounds like Chase is having a great day today, so requesting a transition will be an extra pleasure for all parties involved.
Affirmative, T Bravo.
182 Bravo Lima, Roger, runway 20 left at Kilo, taxi via Alpha Hotel Charlie Kilo.
What is this?
20 left at Kilo, Alpha Hotel Charlie Kilo, T Bravo.
Oh, this is a rest area. And I can tell you this is new photo scenery because there are no cars here because all the California rest areas have been closed. That's how you can tell if your California's photo scenery is real. As of like at least 2 years old. Sorry, at most 2 years old. Because one of their recent ideas to save money is to close all the rest stops because then they don't have to pay the fuel for the trucks, so they have to empty the toiletries, and they don't have to pay maintenance or some shenanigans like that. Although, I mean, a rest stop seems pretty easy to maintain. Water and bathroom, and that's it. But obviously California is in a drought, and still is, especially the SoCal area. So if water was the main consideration for that, then they probably aren't going to open it back up again until we're out of the drought. Some confused people who wanted to live in California but didn't want to live in the city, and so they're out here. Yet again with the question of, did you just cross taxiway Alpha? Answer is no, but he can see you did, so the answer is yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Number 125 Delta X-ray, San Luis Tower.
Oh, no.
Number 125 Delta X-ray, I'm trying to figure out because I was told by my instructor that I should deviate off before I should do anything because I was on a taxiway and I had no idea what to do.
Well, let's see, let's get handled. This is an interesting psychology test. See, this is when all the interesting thing happens. This is at 12 o'clock.
So the issue here is that you just crossed an active taxiway without a taxi clearance. You crossed Alpha without getting clearance from ground and went into the ramp. Unfortunately, I can't proceed with a passing grade on the Cat 2 exam for that.
Are we centered? Here's how you can tell if you're centered. Enter a turn. You see how that's turning counter to the way we're turning? We're turning up north and it's not turning. That means we aren't centered as far as ball and oil would go. This is a good route metric as to what you're doing. So if I do the turn and decoordinate, you can see an extreme example of it. It'll just kind of oscillate.
I just got done talking to another pilot about the same issue. You just taxied across Alpha without a taxi clearance. Again, that's going to be a fail in the Cat 2 exam.
Anyway, hope you guys are having a good Monday. We're just going to
thank you.
get through this here. See, that's the fun part about an R22 flight. We don't go that quickly, but it's always a joyous thing to sit here and listen to the PE comms. At some point, we're going to have to call Banning, which is up here, and let them know that we're just going to be transitioning over their airspace. Looks like a semi had to pull over. Go ahead and report it to Channel 7 News. I don't know what channel they use out here. Windmill. Random 2-token random windmills. Evaporation ponds. Or are you trying to hide it with a nice facade of plants? Supposed to be a developed community, but isn't. You can tell they did the classic grid pattern.
Korean 1516 of connect approach 135 points, sir.
You can see our speed is varying, is changing quite a bit, even though we're maintaining about the same range and altitude. I'm climbing as the terrain is rising, but yeah, it's interesting. At some point, we're going to run into San Manuel Indian Bingo. I need to change this draw distance.
Clear for takeoff 20 left, Oliver.
We'll deal with that in a bit. We'll go ahead and start a turn over here. There's a giant San Manuel Indian Bingo waste your money casino or something like that. Borrego Valley Springs, I don't know. There's something over here. We're going to go ahead and check for cross traffic. We're a little low. So that's the good news about that. About us being low, so we don't have to worry about aircraft around the pattern. Go ahead and go 22.8 and make a little call here. Banning traffic, November 827 Whiskey Uniform, blue and gray R22 transitioning to the north at about 3,000 feet, just crossing the extended threshold for the runways and banning traffic. There's San Manuel. You can see the satellite wasn't right over top. It was a ridiculously long call for what we were doing. And there are the clouds. Now in real life, I would just make a judgment call and land here, or turn back around and head back to Palm Springs. And that would be the judgment call that would have just been made. But I think we can eke a little bit closer to the ground, he says. Because I know that the weather conditions shouldn't be that bad at March, he says. Go ahead and tune their ATIS and give that a jingle here in a second. Go ahead and stay with the airport in sight, because I don't want to go super far away from the airport, because then we won't be able to see departing traffic. And conveniently, we just went IFR. And a plane that doesn't have an artificial horizon. And that's why IFR is so dangerous. You saw us come out of it at an angle. This is running real world weather, so we'll go ahead and actually, we'll pull it into banning, we'll take a listen and evaluate our situation. Banning traffic, Robinson R22, paralleling the I-10. We're going to come in and land at the south pad, correction, the north pad, banning. Oh, that's not good. There we go. Alright, we'll just do a little dusting of the plants here as we come in. Take a quick landing at Banning. It doesn't look like we're going to be able to make it to Riverside today. That's why I didn't do a stream yesterday, because when I came home I was like, what in the weather conditions? Let's avoid hitting the airport bacon. Watch out for the airport bacon. Go ahead and screw up the windsock for a little bit. Now you don't know where to take off. You don't know where to go. Okay. Let's go ahead and head over here and find a place to set her down before we VRS it into the dirt. And we're limited to 22 inches of manifold. Now we're out of translational lift, so it's going to become a pain in the neck to hold it into a hover within limits. Go ahead and blow some dust and catch our tail rotor on the light post. That could have gone a lot worse. This is a great way to have ourselves VRS right into the ground. Yeah, this is a terrible approach. Oh, what a very nice landing. No, you can't call me a scud runner. We ran it here, Mike. Our destination is so much more north. Our destination, for those of you guys who don't know what our destination is, will we even be able to see it? Yeah, we will. No, we won't. Oh, that's never a good sign. Oh, no. Oh, no, Mike, you figured it out. We're a scud runner. We're going to head over here. We were supposed to go... There's right to that airport over on that side, but it's not looking like we're going to be able to make it here. Let's go ahead and take a gander. Hold on. Banning traffic. Blue and gray R22 landed at the ramp. Banning. Let's go ahead and take a gander over to the ATIS at 134.5. I mean, I don't think we can get through the Banning Pass, so we should probably return the helichopper before the weather gets much worse.
Large sharp information Sierra 000.
Yeah, I mean, it's telling us it's clearing a bajillion up there, but the issue is we can't get through the Banning Pass. So regardless of what the weather is on the other side of the Banning Pass, we're kind of limited inside the Banning Pass for the moment. So that really does ruin my stream title. But hey, we aren't going to break Weathermans just to make it to our destination while Mike's in here. Let's go ahead and pick her back up again. And we'll depart back to Palm Springs. Let me do a little pre-tune. And we'll take a listen to the Palm Springs ATIS frequency, just yet again make sure nothing has changed too much. We'll go ahead and go up to 18, back down to 75, and of course the ATIS frequency is 1825. Classic gotcha moment. It'll be the same number of clicks to go either direction. We'll take the downward turn, just like our flight's going. I need you there. 2992, blah blah blah, okay. Same conditions as when we left. Information Sierra, okay. And we need 19.7 to talk to tower. Alright. We're fine, everything is okay. Alright, let's go ahead and pick this up, 22.8. We'll just go ahead and depart. Now the weird part is there are drones here, and the drones are going to go regardless of the weather. We're limited to 22 inches, we're pulling about 21, so we're okay right now. The windsock is showing immeasurable differences, so it'll just be convenient to take this runway right here. 8. And banning traffic, blue and gray, R22 taking runway 8, departing straight out. Banning. As I sit there with the push to talk, just chewing my lips for a bit apparently. Go ahead and push forward. There's 20 inches, we'll get through translational lift and we should see it start to drop down. We'll do a little shimmy jimmy. You can see we're now on the other side of the 0 as we climb out. We'll start to see it changing. Now we do know that there will be traffic all over the place unless they've reduced the number of drones that take off from here. So we're going to have to return her back to the place at which she came from. Let me know how the frames are doing because it looks a little choppy on the preview I'm watching. That could just be the preview. And, Mike, I apparently forgot to give you moderator privileges. Gosh, I feel bad, man. You got your audience there. Oh, no. Let's go ahead and start descending again. That was a bad idea. This is how we get screwed over. There we go. That would have been... I mean, it was terrifying in the sim because you can't feel anything, but in real life that would have been very close to a death sentence. So all that I did is, through muscle memory, if I reduce the collective, you'll see the nose will drop. So I pulled back slightly on the cyclic, right? So this is a reduction in power. You see our nose drops. An increase in power, you'll see our nose rise, which means you have to push forward. So what I did was I reduced the power and reduced my amount of push just a little bit, so that way we would be descending and slightly losing airspeed, because I didn't want us to keep plowing forth when I'm aware that there are mountains to one side and mountains to the other, and a giant casino dead ahead. Right, so we'll go ahead and get a little bit away from the freeway, so that way if anyone goes, oh, we have a helicopter not flying at 500 feet, we can blame perspective shifting. Be like, yeah, it just looks lower because you look, oh, window. Because it looks like, and we're IFR again. This is going swimmingly. Yeah, this is how bad things really do happen. I don't know what orientation we're in. We're gaining speed. I think we lost it. We're gaining altitude. What are we even doing? And this is how flights turn south. This is like I'm not augmenting this at all. I'm holding my controls trying to recover the helicopter, and we just went IFR as I tried to pull a maneuver. That's feeling like VRS. So we need to be descending. I want to turn back to the north because I know it's clear to the north. So what we're doing is we're looking at our rate of change of that gauge to figure out which way we're going. Oh, that's a freaking miracle. Well, we'll have to take a look at the flight path of that mess. No. No. Oh, no. Conditions aren't perfect. You guys ever watched this R22 video where this guy did special VFR? Yeah. There's a train track. I know that the train track remains clear. There's the freeway we were following. Conditions have deteriorated quickly. This is a prime example of why you need to do a little bit more terminal area forecasting before you go out and do any who-diddly like we were doing, because you could end up like this. Slightly lost, confused in a plane that's not IFR certified. There's an intersection, so we aren't following a freeway, because this freeway doesn't have intersections. And here's the issue. We don't know where we are in retrospect to the airport. Now, this is looking like a freeway. This is feeling like a freeway. I just can't believe condition. Well, I mean, it's believable. You hear stories all the time. These guys who are flying IFR or VFR, and then they see low ceilings, and then they're in it, and they're screwed. And right now we're in it, and we're screwed. We're headed east. Originally we were headed west. This is not an idealistic PilotEdge stream, but it is a realistic oh dear scenario. I just can't believe... Is that rain? Oh no. Let's just make it worse and have it rain. That's about as good as it's gonna get right there. There's the freeway. Let's go ahead and head back over to that puppy. Oh god. We should have just stayed at Banning. You hear that all the time in aircraft incidents. Yep, they decided to return from where they came from. Now we're scrubbing the brush, so at this point we're pretty much, if there was 3D buildings with collisions, we would be done. Go ahead and head back over to the east. So there's the freeway we were following. We're out of it, we're shaken. Emotionally, we're very now unstable. But miraculously, we're somehow alive. And if we turn back around, I'll do a little turn here just to check where we came from. Yeah, that doesn't look like it'd be IFR at all. So maybe that's just a simism where it's not drawing a bank of clouds in the weather. But holy moly, that's not realistic. We'll advise Palm Springs Tower when we're returning. We'll just let them know like a real pilot would that, hey, the Banning Pass is socked in. I think most of the locals would know that because we just had a front come through, so it'll kind of hover through the Banning Pass. So probably most of the Palm Springs departures would have to be IFR because you aren't getting through that VFR unless you have a rocket ship. But it's okay. I mean, we didn't have an artificial horizon, so the way I was measuring our horizon was I didn't have my feet on the pedals. So you can see this thing's changing. It's changing, so I would counter the change and then slowly counter the change and wait for it to settle. And then once I figured out it settled, I would assume that we are level. And then I just kind of used the artificial horizon, or I used the VSI, which you shouldn't do, because your VSI should have a delay to it. But I was using that in our altitude gauge. So if our altitude gauge is climbing, that means, in this case, for this helicopter, we're in a nose high attitude. And if our altitude gauge is descending, we know that we're in a nose low attitude, and our speed will increase. So I didn't really want to be touching the collective, because the collective would have screwed up the balance of everything, right? Remember, as I said, as I reduce collective, the nose will pitch down, and you'll descend. But I already knew I have to be at, let's say, this setting to get a neutral nose. So why would I want to screw up my neutral nose setting and then have to re-hunt to find it in conditions where I can't see where I'm going? So that was my little logic there. Oh, he used his part of his username. He was doing a flight and he used logic. That was how I debugged that, to try and avoid that terrible situation of doom. And miraculously, somehow we made it out okay and unscathed. Well, we're not unscathed. The helicopter's nice and clean though, so just demisted. Remember what I said about the windmills out here. Now, if we got into IFR in here, I probably would have just ended it if we got over here, because we wouldn't have made it. 19.7 Palm Springs Tower. Let's go ahead and take a listen to how Chase is doing this afternoon. Let's go ahead and return back to base, because we aren't going to be going to our destination, that's for sure. Go ahead and take a look at the flight path once we land, just kind of see what we were doing in the IFR conditions, because obviously we couldn't see where we were going. We just had to use the Schwartz. I'm sure that, I mean, as much as I hate to say, someone would probably end up using synthetic vision in that case. Someone probably would end up using synthetic vision in that case. If I recall, synthetic vision doesn't show you those. It won't show you windmills, but it'll show you terrain. And so especially if you're a local in the area, you know the terrain, and you understand that there's a freeway. And I'm not sure if synthetic depicts freeways, but I am willing to bet you 1 year for flight subscription that there are dudes who get into situations like that, or dudettes, or pilots, or aviators, whatever you want to call them, and they go, oh poop, our plane doesn't have an artificial horizon, but I paid $100 and something bucks a year, month, whatever, and got synthetic vision. And they're sitting there flying that plane through those conditions with synthetic vision. I don't know what the use is of synthetic vision. I think it's a potential crutch that people will rely on. I mean, it is valuable, but I'm not sure if it's advanced enough to be used in that scenario, right? To be used as a terrain simulation. I mean, probably in a high-performance plane, it's less advisable than a 172, but in my logic, if you're flying in conditions like that and you're relying on an iPad, that kind of makes me not want to fly with you. Because back there, that was terrible judgment on my part. I accept that. That was bad judgment. But, that being said, it's a sim. So if we encountered lowering ceilings in real life, we would have landed, and we would have been like, remember that one time I was doing a simulated thing in a plane? Oh, right, it's probably not a good idea for me to try and fly back to base, right? I've built in a logic check, or a device now where I can sit there and go, I did this once and it didn't work out too well. Maybe I shouldn't do it again. But I didn't break myself or the airframe, right? So it's there's value in the sim regardless of the airframe you're flying. So like even if I went and got a PPL and a tail wheel and got a high performance endorsement, never touched a helicopter, the experience of being in a non-IFR rated helicopter and then getting into IFR conditions and having to fly by the seat of my pants, knowing that full well if there was 3D buildings, we probably would have mashed ourselves into one. Probably not going to do that again in real life. So, anyway, that's my gespiel about that. Go ahead and return back to Palm Springs. The issue why we aren't starting the turn yet is because of the wind of mills. You can see all of their shadows out there. There's a road that will turn to the south. This looks like a convincing road. And it's the road. Yeah, there is rain here. Let's go ahead and check our carb temp. Let's go ahead and not make this into a giant fish tank. Let's close the ventilation holes here. Is this the road we want? I want to say no, it's that road. Let's go ahead and take a gander. Yeah, we'll go ahead and go to the next road, because I remember we flew past the hills in the turn. So we'll go ahead and do that again. Roll it back. We're going to intercept that big road right there. Yep, good thing, because if we followed this road, We would have just entered Palm Springs airspace. We're about to do that here if we aren't careful. 10 degrees C. So we started out 13 degrees C and now we're up to 10, or down to 10. Smaller numbers means we went down in temperature. Of course. Go ahead and head over here.
Number 1014, cleared approach, runway 21.
Kind of paralleling the I-10. Palm Springs, tower number 827 Whiskey Uniform. Type helicopter R22 paralleling the I-10 freeway about 5 to the northeast with clearance to land.
827 Whiskey Uniform, Palm Springs Tower, main clear, Delta airspace, squawk 3111.
3111 for 827 Whiskey Uniform. We'll keep it clear of your Delta. That's slightly different. I mean, I think he has full right to assign me a beacon code. There's no doubt he has full right to assign me a beacon code, because he just did, but I don't know if Palm Springs Tower would be forced to use radar. I think they would. Chase knows more about it than I do. He gets paid to do this. I just pay him to do it, so I take his word. Or go ahead and fly over this.
Whiskey Uniform, radar tech, then right down 131 right, cleared to land.
Right down 131 right, and then cleared to land for 827 Whiskey. We could really confuse Chase and ask for permission to land at the base of the tower, because I think he doesn't remember that we're a helicopter. Go ahead and do that here once we enter the right downwind. We'll just keep ourselves established on that, and then once we get close to what I would call entering the downwind, we'll go ahead and remind him that we're a helicopter. We have landing capabilities anywhere. Ooh, that was either a weather update or wind just sheared off our main rotor. Flying tail dragger, thanks for the auto house.
2268, connect Denver Center.
And Mike, I saw you guys were doing some DCS. I'm not sure if you're still here, but if you are, hopefully the DCS went well. Gonna do some DCS yesterday, but everyone was flying 1.5, and I'm sitting there going, well, I have Vegas only, so I have to download 1.5 at some beautiful point. I think he said 3-1 right, which would be turned to the north. That doesn't make any sense. 3-1, yeah, so it's this way, so it would be one of those. Yeah, so that works out fine for what we're doing. Just logic check here. So we're coming in to land. If we said, oh yeah, enter the pattern for 1-3, right pattern for 1-3, we would have to go over there. The left pattern's over here, but he said right pattern 3-1. So we want to stay on this side of the airport. Airport off to the right side, 3-1 will be that runway, going from windshield support to door support. Should work out just fine, hopefully. Alright, so we don't need to be flying in a sub-Earth orbit here in an R22. We know that the field elevation is about 400 feet. We've been flying at about 1,000 feet. That's what I don't like about running zoom level 17 ortho, is you want to fly where it's clear, and for a helicopter, that's not realistic. Because 18's clear at 500 feet, 17's clear to boot 1,000, so go ahead and drop it down for the pattern. Palm Springs Tower for helicopter 827 Whiskey Uniform. Wonder if we can just go direct to the helipad near the base of the tower.
827 Whiskey Uniform, your cancel landing clearance, landing at the base of the towers at your own risk.
Alright, cancel landing clearance, landing base tower own risk, 827 Whiskey Uniform. Really weird phraseology there. I haven't encountered that one where it's like landing at, cancel your clearance to land. I guess he doesn't want to clear you to land because you're landing at your own risk, right? And that's a little risque. Go ahead and pull about 12.5. Start bleeding the speed. Go ahead and have to get artsy-fartsy with it here, because we have way too much speed.
1014, untag Santa Monica Tower.
Go ahead and just add a little detour to our leg, and we'll keep ourselves at about 40, 50. I need to look into how they actually do these.
1014, Santa Monica runway 21, clear land.
Clear land, runway 21.
I'm going to sweep our tail across the hangar, which is probably not really kosher. And Call the first helipad, the one closest to us. Like any person who's flying a helicopter in the sim, we just lose all our speed and we sit super close. And we're limited to 22. Continue to pull. And we'll just inch it over. Not happy with how that went. Alright, this is looking a bit dicey. Back it up a bit. The area behind us was clear. We didn't really do a sweeping turn to evaluate the clearedness, but go ahead and assume that it's clear. Alright, there we go. There's the pad. Idealistically, we're going to reapproach this. We got a little bit of maneuvering room. There's not any planes coming around. Go ahead and spin it. I didn't really look at the windsock. You told us 3-1 was the way we were landing, so we should probably be attacking it the way we were attacking it before, not this direction, but it seems stable. Go ahead and inch it forward. Watch out for that light, because if our skid catches the light, we'll probably either break the helicopter or ourselves. And we'll just call ourselves a training flight, and that's why we missed the H entirely. Poor piloting skill. Alright, we'll go ahead and turn off our landing light. We'll go ahead and open up our checklist. So we've landed. Actually, we don't want to do that yet because we need to get off this McDougal. So we'll go ahead and pick her up and see which way the wind's going. So we'll go ahead and let it circle into the wind. And we'll pick it up and we'll move it off the helipad so some other genius in a helicopter can land.
1014 taxi WP Alpha.
Now that we're clear.
Spartan flight number 1014.
Make sure that that looks good.
Just
That looks
pass
good
the
enough for me. Go ahead and turn off our transponder, open up the checklists, hide the checklists, open up the checklists. Starting engine we've done. If we haven't, I don't know how we did that flight. Power limits, you can find them here. You can also find them up top. Alright, shutdown procedure collective down, throttle 70-75%. Pedals neutral, frictions all come on. And we're getting caught in the gov. There you go, I don't know. Governor's catching it again. Go ahead and reduce it even further. Up the ante. Up to about 75. Now the rotor comes in and joins it. Power reduction.
Celebrate ground is Comanche November 6229 Papa Radio check over.
Go ahead and set it to VFR. Cyclic friction comes on. You can still move the cyclic. Can't move it. You come here. Alright, so while we're waiting for it to cool down for 40 minutes and let our CHTs drop below whatever, you guys got any questions about that? Rather sweet inducing flight. Inducing flight? What? What are you talking about? Cylinder head temps are below 350 degrees. We'll assume that we waited 4 minutes. Throttle can, oopsies, avionics come off, which we can't do unless we turn off our strobes? No, we have to turn off our batteries to do that. No, we don't, because we have our alternator running. Throttle is now closed. Clutch switch is disengaged. Mixture guard is on. Magnetos and alternator are... That's interesting. Did it say ever pull the... No, it didn't say pull mixture. Okay. Wait 30 seconds. Pull clutch. Pull... Oh, there we go. Pull idle cutoff. And now that that's been pulled, and that goes to 0. Mixture trim guard goes back on. Magnetos alternator go off. And wait 30 seconds to apply rotor brake, and then all switches off. Took us 30 seconds to figure out how that thing worked. Strobe, then that. And all switches are off. We'll go ahead and open the door, let the steam escape and the cold air come in, and we'll go ahead and admire our coffee stain. Alright, that was a quick flight in the R22. It was supposed to be a bit longer, but weather conditions kind of limited us, and we did a little scud running, so we'll take the scud running badge with a little bit of embarrassment. Now, before we do a replay, there's always 1 or 2 things one needs to remember. Come into plugins, come into PilotEdge, disconnect, come into plugins, come into PilotEdge, confirm you've disconnected, before you start going backwards in the replay. Okay. So we'll go ahead and back her up to when we started at Banning, when we took off at Banning. Let me go ahead and actually kill the sound for you guys so I don't deafen you as we go backwards. This is when we went IFR, so much fun. What? It didn't look like that at the ramp. Remember when I took off we could see super far. I call shenanigans. Alright, so there's our landing. We'll take a look at our flight path while we're flying it. Alright, so that was our clutch being engaged. We'll go ahead and give you guys some audio. McDougal. There we go. And play. So dealing with a little bit of wind and apparent reduced visibility. We landed there not really lined with the concrete, but whatever. We made it in the middle. So that's that. We'll go ahead and speed forward. That's us grabbing the ATIS at Riverside March to see what it was on the other side of the canyon. We forgot to let him know it was socked in, but he's probably not going to have any other flights out of here. There's not many people fly out of Palm Springs. And then our plane's gone.
Palm Springs INTL information. Palm Springs.
Yeah, the visibility wasn't this bad when we departed, or else I definitely would not have departed. Oh look, our checklists are still up. Let's go ahead and hide those. Alright, so this is us getting out of here. You guys want to see LT, I think it's Control N. Yeah, so if we looked at this when we were on the ground, you would have seen when we got in and out of LT. It's kind of super cool to see this stuff. There is something else which is usable, but I've never used before. I've used this and this, but I don't know what that last one does. Go ahead and continue on our journey quest. This is all the IFR stuff. I did say we would show our flight path, so let's go ahead and go Shift 8, back out, and Control P. So I think I know when we went IFR. That was up here where we did the McSquiggles. We're kind of squiggling around there. And then we came back out and we were just VFR all the way around following the freeway back in. You can see we took actually a different road than the one we took when we entered. This is me going up to the north to avoid his airspace. We'll go ahead and progress our helicopter slowly along that journey. Alright, so this is us coming in for a landing at Palm Springs. The reason why I do it 4 times is because, actually it's 5 times, is because if you have an ILS frequency tuned, it'll give you ILS boxes the next time you go flying. So if you're showing your 3D flight path, make sure you disengage that. Go ahead and go from the tower view, because they're going to be the ones really judging us. We'll kind of break down what happened here. So here's just me trying to bleed off all of our speed, kind of expose as much surface area to the wind. And the approach wasn't stable at all. You can see I wanted to rotate in the right direction, but then I didn't. This perspective is really making it look like we're tilted backwards. This will be the guy who's a safe distance away. I mean, in all honesty, that's a safe distance away. So that's me kind of sitting there in a hover going, where's where we're going to land? Because I pulled too far forward. That's a semi-decent hover, I'll be honest with you. That's pretty impressive. For an R22. And then I tried to be cool and back it up so we could see the helipad. And I could see it, but I wasn't sure where we were positionally to dead center of the helipad. So then I just decided, alright, we'll swing it back around. And that's what this was. Now the one thing that I should have been aware of is I'm sitting here, the wind's going this direction. Sorry, actually the wind is going this direction. So that was a terrible idea, because it's blowing our tail rotor exhaust back at itself, which if you believe in loss of tail rotor effectiveness, which some people think loss of tail rotor effectiveness, they think of it like a stall, which is the way it's described. But from what I've read, just by trolling the interwebs, it should be called loss of tail rotor I just lost the word. It's not optimization, but effectiveness is correct, but it's not entire loss of effectiveness. It's a general percentage reduction in effectiveness from what I've read. It's not like your tail rotor's off and then on again. It's like your tail rotor's 50% effective. So now instead of having to use 25% pedal, you have to use 75% pedal to displace the air enough. That's what I've read. I mean, if I have time in a 22, I'll let you know, but 22s are expensive, even though they're little lawnmower engine helicopters. When you fly them like this, they're really expensive. Alright, so that was the landing. A little bit of a skid, a little bit off-center, but procedurally absolutely incorrect. That's the whole name for this flight. First stream under a new username, procedurally incorrect flight. So that's pretty much what we got there, guys. So that'll do it for me. You can see me picking up the helicopter to be a nice guy and move it away from the helipad. So I appreciate you guys turning out. For those of you guys who are confused, who the heck is this guy you followed? And you didn't click the unfollow button. Thanks for those of you guys who did. You know, if you were only following me for the name, that's a little silly, but that's the name of the game in Twitch. Get it? Name of the game. Anyway, guys, that'll do it for me. As always, I'm Flight Sci Tech. As always, insert a good outro here. Sorry. Oops, you can see I've done it for so long, it's stuck in the brain. Alright, guys, as always, I'm Flight Logic. You guys have a good one. Catch you guys on the flip side. Insert a good outro here. And as always, you guys fly safe. Maybe. And we have music. There's music, there's parties, there's everything. Anyway, guys, see you later.